If you love animated content that breaks down book summaries and dives into fascinating topics, we'd love your support. Creating these videos takes a lot of time and effort, and by subscribing, you help us continue bringing you this valuable content consistently. Your support means the world to us. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this exciting journey. And now, let's continue with the video. How I built this. Chapter 1: Be open to ideas. Guy Raz is the founder and host of NPR's How I Built This, a podcast dedicated to the stories of companies like Airbnb, Slack, Headspace, and more. Over the course of his career, Raz has interviewed hundreds of founders, uncovering the highs and lows of starting their businesses. These stories have shown Raz that, for the most part, these founders are just like you and me, which is to say, they're human. In other words, there isn't something inherent in these entrepreneurs that led to their successes. Building on this podcast, Raz wrote How I Built This, a guide for those who are not natural-born entrepreneurs or even entrepreneurs at all. In it, he highlights various obstacles any founder will face: finding an idea, acquiring funding, and learning what to do when the market changes. In the following chapters, we'll detail the origins of entrepreneurs and what lessons they offer for pursuing our own dreams. Raz believes that entrepreneurs aren't chosen, they are made. Self-made. They become entrepreneurs when they take a leap of faith. But to take that initial leap, you need a good idea to pursue first. For some, inspiration strikes naturally. They know exactly what project or idea they want to pursue. But if inspiration doesn't strike, how can you go about finding a good idea to work off of? Raz quotes founder of startup accelerator Y Combinator, Paul Graham. But Graham cautions against inventing problems that might not exist. He says solving problems no one has is one of the most common mistakes new startups make. Additionally, founders often confuse their own passion for what they've built with the passion a consumer might experience. But Raz explains, consumers don't pay for passion. They pay for things they can use. For example, consider the following Shark Tank products. It's likely the founders of these products were all very passionate about what they had invented. That's why they were on Shark Tank. But were any consumers likely to be as passionate about these products? Or are these products solving for a problem that doesn't exist? The intersection of personal passion and problem solving is where good ideas are born and lasting businesses are built, Raz says. For example, Raz shares the origin story of beauty company Carol's Daughter. Its founder, Lisa Price, had never intended to build a business. Rather, Price had started developing unique lotions to help hydrate her own skin, as well as her mother's. Eventually, it became clear that these products would be helpful to other people, and so Price pursued it as a business option. Ultimately, it was the combination of passion and utility that helped her company take off and eventually get acquired by L'Oreal. Chapter 2: Funding, Bootstrapping. Every entrepreneur needs to fund their business. One type of funding is what Raz calls other people's money, investments from friends and families, venture capital, or loans. But this type of money isn't always accessible to every entrepreneur and may not be advisable when a business is just starting out, as it might mean losing equity. In these cases, there's another common strategy Raz has seen across many companies: bootstrapping. Raz defines bootstrapping as using what you have at your disposal to get where you want to go. This could mean maxing out personal credit cards, using personal savings, or cycling profits back into the company. But it can also mean getting creative and using non-monetary assets like your time and energy to keep your business alive. Airbnb's origin story demonstrates how useful bootstrapping can be. In September 2007, Rhode Island School of Design grads Joe Gebbia and Brian Chesky decided to go to an industrial design fair together. While they looked around the convention website, they noticed that the hotel accommodations were already sold out. Conveniently, they lived in the host city, San Francisco, and decided they could host potential convention goers in their apartment. They set up a website called Airbnb Breakfast and charged $80 a night for visitors to sleep on an air mattress on the living room floor. There was an unexpected bonus to this setup. Visitors got to feel like they belonged there in the sense that they didn't feel like outsiders, Gebbia says. After they realized this was a compelling business idea to pursue, Gebbia and Chesky recruited Harvard computer scientist Nate Blecharczyk. The three co-founders redesigned the website, reconceived as a travel website on half a shoestring, Gebbia says. They launched Airbnb Breakfast during the 2007 Democratic National Convention, but had minimal success. So far, they'd been unable to acquire funding, so they had to rely on a binder full of credit cards that they continuously maxed out. But surviving off of credit cards can only last so long. They needed a way to make money, and fast. Luckily, inspiration struck. The founders realized they'd completed the bed portion of bed and breakfast, but not the breakfast. Riding the wave of the DNC, they created 500 boxes of Barack Obama and John McCain-themed cereal, selling them online for $40 a pop. Though this strategy wasn't directly related to their business, they made $20,000 and were able to pay off their credit cards. This provided sufficient runway for the company to survive. Within 8 months, they were accepted to the famous Y Combinator startup incubator. Immediately after graduating Y Combinator, they began to make significant changes, ultimately becoming Airbnb, a company now valued at more than $30 billion. Chapter 3: The Side Door. How I Built This. Unless your business is doing something completely unique, it's likely you're going to have competition. Figuring out how to get a product to succeed in a heavily saturated market was the main problem for Manoj Bhargava, the founder of 5 Hour Energy. In 2003, Bhargava attended a natural products trade show near Los Angeles and discovered a potent energy drink. He was sure he could sell this product, but the owners disagreed and refused to give him the formula or rights. Bhargava looked at the label and decided he could invent a similar energy drink himself. Within a few months, he had a functioning prototype, but then came the real problem: dealing with competitors. In any store, the refrigerated space is limited. This meant Bhargava was not only up against other energy drinks, like Red Bull, but cold drinks like Coke and Pepsi. Luckily, Bhargava had an epiphany. His original prototype was a standard drink size. Energy drinks are dehydrating, and after drinking it, he often found himself thirsty. He suddenly found it odd that energy drinks were sold in such large sizes. You wouldn't buy a 16-ounce bottle of liquid Tylenol, Bhargava thought. And so, he decided to make his product 2 ounces. At such a small size, it didn't need to be refrigerated and didn't take up much space. This meant it no longer needed to compete with other drinks. Bhargava said it was more a delivery system than a drink. Raz calls Bhargava's strategy finding the side door, pivoting a product into whatever market where it might succeed. The front door, in this scenario, would be the standard energy drink industry. Bhargava's side door was creating an energy shot instead. Because of this change, the first place where 5 Hour Energy found a home wasn't a traditional grocery outlet, but GNC, the vitamin superstore. GNC was happy to take on new products because once new products reached Walmart or 7-Eleven, people wouldn't go out of their way to buy them at GNC. And luckily, there was less competition for an energy shot at a vitamin store. After selling 10,000 units in 6 months at GNC, Bhargava reached out to drugstores like Walgreens and Rite Aid, which began to stock 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy now owns 93% of the market for energy shots, only slightly dipping when big competitors tried to make their own. Finding a side door is a way to advance a product, even when it seems like there's no way to beat intense competition. Chapter 4: The Art of the Pivot. How I Built This. Sometimes a market or industry changes and a founder needs to adjust accordingly. This is called a pivot, a significant business change generally used to help a company move past a difficult stage. But how to pivot and when isn't always obvious. For example, how did Glitch, a multiplayer video game, become Slack, a business communication system? When Glitch first launched in 2009, it developed a decent following. Thousands of gamers paid about $70 a year to play. During this time, online games were growing increasingly popular and demand was high. Based on his previous successful company Flickr, founder Stuart Butterfield had no problem acquiring $17.5 million in funding. But there was an issue. Because online games were on the rise, more kinds of video games began to crop up. Many new video games were more mainstream than Glitch, which was designed to be unusual. By 2012, demand for Glitch was declining, and Butterfield realized it wasn't going to survive. But Butterfield's passion was in gaming, and he wasn't sure what to do next. It took about a week for him to see something that Glitch had which might be valuable. Glitch's team had developed an internal communication system solely for company use. With the prospect of a company shutdown on the horizon, the staff was upset about losing this system. This helped them realize that maybe other companies would want it, too. Even after realizing the potential of this chatting interface, the team struggled to transition from a video game company to a business communication company. But eventually, Butterfield realized at its core, Slack was just multiplayer communications, like a video game or photo sharing. It was another form of collaborative community, and community was the impetus for everything Butterfield did. So this helped the team transition more smoothly. Regardless, Raz argues that it takes serious emotional maturity to pivot. It's difficult to recognize that the business you are leading is more important than the idea on which that business was originally built, Raz explained. So if you're building your own business, don't be wary if at one point you may also need to pivot if the industry or market changes. Chapter 5: Mission over Money. How I Built This. In 2008, investment giants Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers plummeted into bankruptcy after making too many bets on subprime mortgages. Between them, these firms had survived many economic crises, including the American Civil War and Great Depression. But neither could survive their own greed, Raz says. These firms chased higher profits by pushing lenders to increase the number of mortgages to high-risk candidates. The consequences of this behavior suggest that money can't be the primary motivating force behind our businesses. Instead, businesses need a mission or larger purpose to inspire their strategy. It's up to the founder to determine this from the get-go. Founders who build a business, mission first, are better equipped to mitigate the allure of profit chasing. Most importantly, a clearly defined mission can help companies be resilient when money is scarce and growth is dwindling. If, contrarily, the company's only goal is money, any signs of financial trouble will cause a collapse. Beyond inspiring resiliency, a mission can also give a company a sense of direction. For example, consider the trajectory of popular meditation app Headspace. In 2004, its co-founder Andy Puddicombe was a Buddhist monk teaching meditation in Moscow. Soon he realized how much he valued teaching meditation to people. He decided to hand in his robes and head back home to England. Puddicombe's mission was to demystify and bring meditation to the masses, Raz explains. He just wasn't sure how to accomplish it. Eventually, Puddicombe began offering meditation courses at an integrative health center in London's financial district. He purposefully chose this area, rather than a slightly more avant-garde area. I wanted it to feel mainstream, he said. During this time, he started working on the course that would eventually become Headspace, but wasn't sure how to get it off the ground. Luckily, in 2009, Puddicombe was introduced to his future co-founder, Rich Pearson, an anxious and burned-out former advertising executive. Puddicombe needed help marketing and scaling his meditation course idea, and Pearson needed to manage his anxiety. Pearson took Puddicombe's meditation course and also helped build out his idea. In 2012, they launched the Headspace website. Headspace was originally built just for events. But soon they realized if they wanted to bring meditation to the masses, they needed a larger platform. With their mission as the guiding principle, they switched to an app, and by mid-2018 had 30 million users. Raz concludes, a mission guided a former monk, a man who had forsworn money, all the way up to the summit of entrepreneurial achievement. So when you're building a company, having a mission that isn't just money-related can help inspire resiliency and act as a guiding principle. Chapter 6: Think Small to Get Big. How I Built This. During California's gold rush in the mid-19th century, San Francisco saw incredible growth. Domingo Ghirardelli, Henry Wells, and William Fargo, as well as Levi Strauss, arrived to get in on the action. But surprisingly, none of these household names found their success in the gold mining industry. Rather than join the obvious lucrative market, i.e. the gold rush, they tapped into niche auxiliary markets to make their money. After failing as a gold miner, Ghirardelli opened up a mining supplies and sweets store and eventually created the Ghirardelli Chocolate Company. Meanwhile, Henry Wells and William Fargo came from New York solely to provide banking services for miners. And rather than send money back to New York, as was business tradition at the time, Wells and Fargo kept their money local, creating brand loyalty in the area. Lastly, Levi Strauss moved from New York to set up a mercantile business to cater to the growing population. Then, in the early 1870s, a tailor in Reno discovered how to turn denim into a pair of durable pants, now called blue jeans. He and Strauss partnered up, acquired a patent, and became multimillionaires. Strauss, Ghirardelli, Wells, and Fargo's routes to success suggest that focusing on niche markets can be a tremendously lucrative strategy. The choice of focusing on niche markets has helped many entrepreneurs succeed. Raz shares another example. Chet Pipkin, founder of the consumer electronics company Belkin International. Pipkin was a UCLA student in the 1980s, the beginning of what Russ calls the tech gold rush, when computers were just starting to take off. Pipkin loved computers. He thought of becoming a PC maker himself, but realized the market was already too saturated. Instead, he began to look for gaps in the marketplace that would inevitably crop up as demand for PCs grew. He started hanging out at local computer stores, Raz explains, and eventually saw a potential opportunity. In the 1980s, PCs and printers were not necessarily built to be compatible. Pipkin realized he could build a product to connect them. From his garage, Pipkin and his team manufactured connector cables for PCs and printers, reaching $180,000 in sales after their first full year of business. Belkin International went on to occupy a market niche so significant it warranted an $800 million price tag when Pipkin sold his company in 2018. Thus, picking a smaller market may be a beneficial tactic when you're trying to make it big. The main ideas, Chapter 6. Focusing on auxiliary markets may lead to greater success than trying to enter a bigger industry. Ghirardelli, Wells and Fargo, and Strauss all found success by entering niche markets during the gold rush. Rather than try to compete with other PC developers, Pipkin developed a printer-computer connector to fill a gap in the market. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this exciting journey.